need this on?
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay.
Nice to meet you.
It looks like you may see it. Mr. Benson with another notice of exclusion.
Okay, it's 11:02.
That's what she's dealing with out there. It's the officer serving her with the notice of exclusion.
Okay. Well, we'll hold off here. Hopefully she can get here soon.
I asked for them to wait till after, but when it delayed.
And now I'm waiting. There's Sarah. All right. All right, thank you. And Sarah, could you just close the door when you get back to the back of the room? Thank you. Mark, are we all set to go? Good, all right. Welcome. Today is October 9th. My name is Kathy Guckenberger. It is 11:04 a.m. I have confirmed that the city is recording this proceeding. We have the full-on recording happening as well as a backup tape recorder here. Other than that, I'm gonna be clear for this entire proceeding. There should be no other recording, live streaming, publication of this proceeding in any fashion, audio, video, or otherwise. This is pursuant to or the guidance issued in Chief Justice Directive 2303. So we are here today in the matter of the appeal of Regan? I want to make sure I'm pronouncing that correctly. Regan Benson, concerning her appeal of an exclusion from the Englewood Public Library, south half of second floor lobby from stairs to the entrance of the Englewood Civic Center dated March 11th, 2024. That appeal was filed on March 14th, 2024. We have some preliminary matters to address. So first, I'd just like to get on the record who is present for this proceeding in the room. Please identify yourself through the mic.
Nathan Cash, attorney for the City of Englewood, registration 59367.
All right.
And Jamie Hubbard on behalf of Ms. Benson, who appears with me at council table. Oh, thank you. Apparently I have to push that button. Jamie Hubbard on behalf of Ms. Benson, registration number 48552.
All right, thank you. So just procedurally, this hearing was originally set to occur on March 25th of 2024. And on March 21st, 2024, the city submitted a motion requesting that this hearing be closed. Can I confirm, Ms. Hubbard, that you've received a copy of that motion?
I received a copy yesterday with when the email was sent asking whether the hearing would be open or closed.
Okay. And per my order on March 25th of 2024, this matter was continued indefinitely per Ms. Benson's request submitted on March 22nd, 2024, which the city did not oppose. And my order was sent to Ms. Benson and the city on March 25th, my order of continuance. So on September 28th of 2024, Ms. Hubbard, Ms. Benson's legal counsel, submitted a letter to the city clerk requesting that this hearing be rescheduled pursuant to dismissal of another matter. And that letter submitted by Ms. Hubbard specifically referenced my March 25th order granting continuance. And the hearing was set for today's date pursuant to that request on October 1. Now, just for the record, my order of continuance did specify that the appellant could submit a written request in response to the request to close the hearing. And that order required that such response be submitted no later than 2 days before the date of any rescheduled hearing. So under the current calendar, that deadline was therefore Monday, October 7th. But we still have a motion for the city requesting that this hearing be closed, and as Ms. Hubbard has reflected on the record, she received a copy of that yesterday. That motion was specifically preserved in the city's response to Ms. Benson's request for a continuance, and as I said, referenced in the order granting a continuance. But since this morning I was made aware of Ms. Benson's objection to a closed hearing, registered with my office yesterday afternoon, I've offered the opportunity to Ms. Benson's counsel to submit legal argument in support of an objection to this hearing being closed. So we'll take a few minutes here to allow Ms. Hubbard to argue that case, and I'll make a decision, and then we'll proceed with the hearing. Yes.
Okay. And it's easier for me. I'm just more comfortable standing at the podium if you don't mind.
That's completely fine, whatever's comfortable.
And Your Honor, I did want to start by apologizing for missing that deadline. That was just 100% an oversight on my part. I did have a copy of the court's order continuing the hearing and, as you noted, complied with the obligation to give you notice that the criminal case had been dismissed and then just forgot to calendar the deadline to respond to the motion for a closed hearing. I didn't have the motion at the time, but that's not an excuse. I should have met your deadline, so I just wanted to apologize for that. My legal position on this is that the city's motion seems to turn the standard on its head. This is a government hearing. We're in a city building paid for by taxpayers. The city of Englewood is trying to silence my client and keep her away from the city building where she provides services to people and where she helps the citizens of Englewood keep their government accountable for things that they're responsible for. That is a matter of public interest. On top of the general matter of public interest, and the presumption that things that the government does in Colorado should be public unless there's an exception that applies that overrides the public nature of the things government should do. This hearing fundamentally relates to the First Amendment. Ms. Benson has First Amendment rights. She exercises those First Amendment rights, and the city of Englewood really doesn't like it. That's why we're here. They have attempted to have her prosecuted for harassment. That didn't work because guess what? Prosecuting someone for recording in a city building, in the public spaces of a city building, violates the First Amendment. And there is a specific, and there is repeated case law. I'll give the court one site that I found just with a quick search, Pacific Frontier versus Pleasant Grove City, 414 F3rd 121. That's a 10th Circuit case from 2005. A quote from that case is, "Vindicating First Amendment freedoms is clearly in the public interest." Whenever you have something that relates to the First Amendment, there is a heightened public interest. There is a heightened public interest when a government is trying to punish citizens for exercising their First Amendment. This is a hearing about the First Amendment. So I do not think the city has offered any reason that comes close to overcoming the presumption in favor of public hearings. The cites that I see are to the First Amendment itself as somehow supporting the idea that this hearing should be closed, which I don't understand that argument. There is also a cite to the Fourth Amendment, which similarly does not create any kind of right for the city to close this hearing. It's simply inapplicable. The city references this generalized right to privacy that people might have. Keep in mind, this is a government hearing, and the people who are coming to testify are not under subpoena. They are choosing to be here. If they don't want to participate, they can choose not to participate. If there is something that comes up during the hearing that is sensitive, medical information, some sort of prior experience they had that is traumatic that doesn't need to be public, I have no objection to handling that in a manner that would not cause that information to be made more public than necessary. But otherwise, these people are choosing to come and testify on behalf of the city, and they have no right to have that be private. So
Be what?
they have no right to have that be private in
Private,
some way,
okay.
or closed,
All
or
right.
not subject to scrutiny from the public.
All right, thank you. Mr. Cash, any response?
This is great. Hearing officer, we submitted our motion. We believe that accurately lays out our argument on this matter. We would just like to reiterate that we do not believe there is a right for this hearing to be closed. We're just requesting that it be, again, in balancing Ms. Benson's First Amendment right and the interest of transparency in government with the fact that the nature of the charge that Ms. Benson was charged with is harassment of the witnesses who are appearing today. So to the extent that a hearing is open, we have some concern that witnesses could feel intimidated or more anxious or nervous than they need to be. And that is the primary basis on which we made our motion.
Intimidated by whom?
So let me rephrase, I apologize, hearing officer. The concern would be if there's a large crowd here, and I understand it would not be allowed to be disruptive or film or whatnot, that could intimidate our witnesses who feel they have already been harassed by Ms. Benson.
All right, thank you. I will note that the city code is silent on whether or not, and someone is recording from outside of the hearing. I'll note that for the record. The city code is silent on whether or not this hearing is public or not. Notice was posted, but it is not a public hearing. City has put forth numerous grounds, including the fact that it is not bound by judicial rules of procedure, this hearing. It's administrative in nature, is not criminal. It's not an open meeting subject to the open meetings law. And it is being recorded and subject to judicial review. So I'm going to take a moment to consider these and issue a ruling. This hearing will not be open to the public, so we'll proceed I'm going to remind everybody that there's no recording, streaming, or publication of this matter other than the official recording of this hearing. This is an informal hearing, although all testimony will be under oath or solemn statement administered by me in accordance with the Englewood Municipal Code. So my primary goal here today is to ensure a due process and a fair and impartial hearing. As a reminder, per the code, we're not bound by judicial rules of evidence or procedure, except for the parties may present evidence determined, by me to meet certain criteria of relevance, probative value, and credibility. I'm assuming, let me just check. How many witnesses do each of you have to present, Mr. Cash?
The city has 2.
2, and Ms. Hubbard?
I also expect 2, although we may end up with 3.
All right, well, we'll be sequestering the witnesses, so 1 witness at a time here, unless we have a party representative or party to this proceeding. So, and I don't know timing-wise how long this is going to go. Maybe we can take an estimate so that we can decide or how we want to deal with breaks as needed. How long do you anticipate, Mr. Cash?
I would say we could likely get through both witnesses in under an hour, just depending on the scope of cross and if we need to redirect.
Okay, and Ms. Hubbard?
That seems about right for my witnesses as well. I don't expect to have a particularly lengthy examinations for any one witness. Just getting through 4 may take an hour and a half or so.
Are you guys thinking you would want a lunch break or just press on through?
I would prefer to press on. I have a 1:30 that I really need to be at, if possible. I understand that may not be possible.
That is reasonable to me.
No objection. I
Yeah,
just press it.
okay, so we'll just press on and get on with the matter at hand. So just as a reminder, the city has the burden to show that Ms. Benson, committed the rule violation and that the issuance, duration, and conditions of the exclusion are lawful. So we're going to proceed, given that the city has the burden, with Mr. Cash present his case first. Oh,
If I may, Your Honor, just quickly for the record, not
Yes.
asking the court to revisit anything, but we would lodge an objection to the idea that the Chief Justice Directive on virtual participation, a virtual presentation of hearings applies in this situation.
Understood. I view it as the best guidance available for informal municipal proceeding of this nature. And so anyway, thank you, Ms. Hubbard. We'll proceed with the city's case and then appellant's case. I don't know if you guys have opening statements or not, or if you'd like to proceed straight to the case given our time limitations.
Yeah, the city would prefer to reserve opening for closing, or our time for opening for closing.
For a closing statement. Is that,
That's fine.
everybody's in agreement with that? All right, Mr. Cash, please proceed.
Hey, good morning, hearing officer. The first witness we'd like to call is Mr. Damian Elligan. Mr. Elligan, can you hear me?
And let the record reflect that Mr. Elligan is testifying remotely. This has been agreed to by Ms. Benson, by her legal counsel, and we are currently putting Mr. Elligan on a video screen for direct examination.
And Your Honor, for the record, we did not consent to this.
Oh, you did not consent?
No, but recognizing it's an informal hearing.
Did you have any discussion at all?
No.
We
He gave me notice that he was intending to call Mr. Elligan by video conference.
Okay.
I
You
received
did.
that email yesterday.
Do you, you do not object, though, given the informal nature of this hearing?
It is not my preference. I do not believe cross-examination is effective by video conference, and I believe, I'm primarily a criminal lawyer where somebody has to come and face the person they're accusing. Mr. Elligan did not ever have to do that, and so I do object for purposes of the record.
Understood, given that this is an informal hearing and the rules of evidence do not apply, and the fact that you will have a chance to cross-examine and I believe show documents.
Yes, Your Honor.
Correct? I'm going to overrule that objection.
And just to clarify, hearing officer, we did reach out to you a few days ago and we received guidance from your office that virtual participation was okay as long as we let opposing counsel know how we were planning to do that. We did let them know.
That's
yesterday.
correct. That's correct. So please proceed. Is Mr. Elligan available?
Mr. Elligan,
Yes.
can you hear me? All right.
Is he not available?
Yes, I can hear you.
Video with just audio?
No, he should be video. Mark, can you get the video on the screen, please? I
I do that would be
Oh, yes.
appropriate.
Officer, yeah. And we set that up this morning. I'm unsure what the issue is.
Understood.
We'll get that figured out.
His video is not on. He's not sending me a video.
Mr. Elgin, can you? Mr. Elgin, as we discussed earlier this morning, can you please turn your video on?
Thought I had it on.
They're showing that it's not coming through on your end. If you're on Zoom, there should be a button on the bottom left that shows your video, and if it shows that it's off, just click it and it'll turn it on.
Okay. Is it on? Oh, there you go.
And then Mark, can I just ask if video is being sent through that we can display it? Okay, we can see you now, Mr. Elgin. Can you see the courtroom?
No, I can just see myself.
Okay, and ask Mark, is it possible for Mr. Elgin to see the courtroom?
And I'll just note, he needs to not only be able to see the courtroom, but be able to see anything that opposing counsel needs him to see.
Yes, hearing officer, thank
Okay.
you. Yeah. Okay, I asked earlier this morning, did something change with the system or? Yeah, sorry, thank you.
When we need to, I can push that to him, but to get this in here, we get it this way.
Okay, gotcha.
So
So we'll have to-
if we push something to him, he'll see it, but right now, this is the way that this functions.
All right, so we can switch if something needs to be shown.
Video to him, we can switch to that source. At this point, it's return conversation now,
Okay.
and when we need to push it back, we'll push back what we need to.
Understood, just to clarify, if I asked him to identify someone in the courtroom, would you be able to switch the video when he could see the courtroom?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're not gonna see him.
Oh, that,
All right. Okay. Mr. Elligan, are you still with us?
Yes.
Okay. Well, now we cannot see Mr. Elligan.
okay. And Mark, thank you for all your help. Can you switch it back to Mr. Elgin very quickly? I'll let you know when we need to switch it to the courtroom. All right, I really appreciate it, Mark. Thank you.
The screen looks frozen. Is he? Are we going to be able to see him speak and react?
And Mr. Elgin, can you
There we
just say
go.
something?
There we go.
Yes, yes.
Okay, awesome. I think everything's working correctly now. Opposing counsel, are you ready?
Reserving my objection, yes.
And hearing officer, are we okay to proceed?
Yes, please proceed.
All right. Thank you for coming here this morning, Mr. Elligan. Can I start by please having you state your full name and then also spell your last name for the record?
Okay, it's Damian Maurice Elligan, Ellegan.
Okay, thank you. And I'm just going to ask you a few questions about the reason we're at the hearing today with regard to your interactions with Ms. Benson at the library in early of March of this year. So
Okay.
in March of this year, were you employed?
Yes, I was employed with Allied Security.
Okay. And then how long did you work for Allied Security?
I would say about a month and a half.
Okay, thank you. And while you were working with Allied Security, what were some of your job duties?
I was working at the Englewood Library security desk. I was
Okay.
doing security guard.
And what did you do on a day-to-day basis?
I would sit at the Englewood Library security desk, and when people need to use the restroom, I would take their names on the paper. They would have to sign in.
Okay, thank you for that. And were you on duty or working on March 4th, 2024?
Yes.
Right. And where were you on duty?
Inside the library.
Okay, so you're working the security desk?
Yes.
So I'd like to draw your attention to approximately 4:15 p.m. on that day. Did you come into contact with any library patrons that day?
Yes.
Okay, anyone in particular that you remember?
Yes, Miss Reagan Benson.
Okay, and then Mark, could we please show the courtroom? All right, thank you. And can you see the courtroom, Mr. Elligan?
Yes, I can.
Okay, and to your knowledge, do you see Miss Benson in the room?
Your Honor,
today?
we can stipulate that Ms. Benson is the person who interacted with Mr. Elligan on March 4th.
All right, sounds great.
Okay.
All right, and then we could switch back, Mark. I would appreciate it. Okay, so you remember seeing Miss Benson. To your knowledge, why was Miss Benson in the library that afternoon?
To use the restroom.
Okay, and then when she returned from the restroom, what happened?
I asked her to sign her name, but she wouldn't. So when she came back, she started filming me, and she didn't want to sign her name, so she started filming me, and then she started following me.
Okay, and then so you mentioned the library policy of asking Miss Benson to sign her name. Can you explain a little bit more about that policy?
Yes, the policy is made for people to sign for when people use the restroom, so they can keep up with the how many people are going into the side the restroom, because you're given the access key to the restroom.
All right, thank you. And then so you informed Miss Benson of this library policy, and then what happened next?
She didn't want to sign her name, and so I asked her to sign her name, and she didn't want to sign it, and then she started filming me, and it went from there. She started following me outside of the library, and went upstairs and outside.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Elligan. So did you ever ask Miss Benson to stop filming you?
Yes.
Okay, and then did you continue?
Oh, I let her know that I felt that she was threatening me, and that she was harassing me because she followed me all the way upstairs.
Okay, so in the moment, based on your experience you had with Miss Benson, how did you feel when she was continued to follow you and was videoing you?
I felt threatened. I was actually kind of scared because I didn't know what she was willing to do.
All right, gotcha. And did she continue to film you even after you asked her to stop?
Yes.
Okay, and did you ever contact a coworker or a supervisor during this time?
Yes, I did. I contacted a coworker and my supervisor.
Okay, can you just explain your interaction with them?
Well, when I contacted the coworker, he told me there was nothing he can do and I can do. So that's why I went outside, and I was trying to hopefully get her to just stop following me.
Okay, and then you mentioned you just explained your interaction with the coworker. Did you have a separate interaction with the supervisor?
Yes.
Okay, and
He
can you,
was at he I spoke with the supervisor in the library, and he told me to take a break and to go upstairs and so that's what I did.
Okay, so when you went upstairs, is that upstairs and lobby area part of the Englewood Civic Center?
Yes.
Okay, and did Miss Benson walk with you upstairs?
Yes, she followed me upstairs.
And was she still filming at this time?
Yes.
Okay, and at this point, we spoke a similar question earlier, but at this point, how were you feeling about Miss Benson following you?
I was feeling very threatened because I spoke to her over and over. I asked her over and over again, can she stop following me? And she didn't.
All right, and did you let her know, other than asking her to stop following you, that you specifically felt unsafe?
Yes, I've told her.
And then she continued to film you as well?
Yes.
Okay, so after you went upstairs, where did you go next?
I went outside because I went outside and she followed me outside.
Okay, and then when did your interaction with Miss Benson end?
When I went back inside and I went inside a closed area.
Okay, and then she stopped
A
following
locked
you,
area.
and then she stopped following you at that point.
Yes.
Okay, and are you aware of any video footage of this incident that exists?
Yes, I've seen it on YouTube, and it's very embarrassing.
Okay, I'd like to let the record reflect that I'm pulling up a video. Just one moment.
Is this video coming off of YouTube right now?
No, hearing officer, it is downloaded.
Download it, okay.
Yes. Okay, I'm going to play the first 30 seconds or so of this video, Mr. Allegan. Just please pay attention. I'd just like to confirm with, oh, never mind, we can see it. Before I start, can you see this video, Mr. Allegan?
Your Honor,
Yes, I can see it.
may I don't believe it's appropriate to show the video before it's admitted, and I believe before it should be admitted, I should have the opportunity to voir dire as to his knowledge and experience with the video. He did not make this video.
I will allow that.
Okay, so to clarify, don't play the video, or?
Not yet. Ms. Hubbard is going to ask some questions about his ability to authenticate this video.
Sounds great. Yeah.
Mr. Elligan, Ms. Hubbard is going to be asking you some questions.
Okay.
And could we switch the camera? Thank
we
you
go.
for that.
Yeah.
Mr. Elligan, my name is Jamie Hubbard. I don't know where the camera is up here, so I'm sorry that I'm looking at where you're to me. I'm probably looking away from how you see me. But I represent Regan Benson.
Okay.
You saw this video on YouTube, is that right?
Yes.
You didn't take the video,
No.
and you didn't upload the video to YouTube.
No. No, ma'am.
And you believe the video has been edited.
Edited. For you, I don't know if it was edited or not. I just seen it.
You told, when you called the city of Englewood.
Hang on, we're testifying now, Ms. Hubbard. You're testifying.
I'm trying to give him foundation as to why he has made statements that he
Maybe
believes
you
the
can
video
ask
is
him some
edited.
questions rather than asserting.
Yes. You previously talked to an officer on Englewood Dispatch about Miss Benson in this video, correct?
Yes.
And you told the officer in dispatch that Miss Benson called you a lot of names, and that didn't show on the video.
The title of the video on YouTube said that. It called me a punk and all that.
Okay, so you don't like the title that was assigned to the video on YouTube?
No, that was embarrassing.
Okay, you didn't make the title that's
No, I
assigned to the
didn't.
video on YouTube?
No.
Did you download the video from YouTube?
No.
You have just watched it streaming on YouTube?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, I don't believe this witness is appropriate to authenticate this video.
I'm going to give Mr. Cash an opportunity to respond to that, but I mean, you know, we'll see.
All right, thank you, Mr. Elligan, for that. I'm going to ask you a few more questions about the video. So just to confirm, you did see this YouTube video on YouTube, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And to your knowledge, the video represented the entire interaction that you had with Miss Benson.
Yes.
And if you were shown the video, would you be able to state and to authenticate that it is the video that you saw? Would you remember that?
Yes.
Okay, I'd like to ask the hearing officer, our witness, he did not download or take the video, but he did watch the video. It does pertain to him and he can recognize himself. Additionally, he has testified that he has knowledge of whether or not this is the same video that he saw on YouTube. And additionally, I would just like to clarify that he did not state that this video was edited in any way when asked by opposing counsel.
Okay, so this video, I'll allow it at this point in time, but only for the purposes of Mr. Elegant confirming whether or not he was present and whether or not that supports his recollections of the event. Okay?
All right, I'm going to play just the beginning of this video, Mr. Elegant.
Okay.
Next time I cannot let you use the restroom without signing your name. So you just sit it down right there.
Guess what?
What?
I will use the bathroom,
Well,
regardless.
I'm sorry, but I won't let.
Well, that's not
I
gonna
can't-
fly.
It's not on me. It's
Oh,
the
yes, it
policy.
is on you, because you've been told not to deny bathroom use based on signing a piece of paper. So who's in charge?
Go talk. You can talk to the
No,
people. Then.
who's in charge? Who's your boss?
Okay, and pausing right there, Mr. Elegant, to your recollection, who do you see in that video? Is that you?
Yes.
Okay, and then to your best knowledge, is this the interaction that you had with Miss Benson?
Yes.
Okay, and as you testified, this is you at the security desk in the Englewood Public Library, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Because we're only using this for the purposes of demonstrating that Mr. Elegant was present, if it's okay with opposing counsel, I won't show the rest of the video. If you'd like me to show the rest of the video for context, I would be happy to do so.
Your Honor, I'm not trying to dictate how he presents his case.
I agree that
Okay.
that decision is up to you, Mr. Cash.
Okay, understood. Okay, Mr. Elegant?
I did admit it for purposes of whether or not it supports his recollections of the event.
Yes, hearing officer. Mr. Elegant, I'm going to play more portions of the video. I'll pause throughout and just ask you a few clarifying questions, okay?
Okay.
Man, go talk to them.
Who's them?
The library people.
The library people?
Please do not do that with me. Go talk to them. I'm not.
Guess what?
I'm
The
not
more you
drama-
tell me
I'm
not
not
to do
drama
it,
field.
the more I'm gonna do it.
Do
You are working in a public building. This
Hey.
is a public bathroom.
I don't listen. This
No,
is my
you
job.
listen.
This is my job.
It is not your job to tell me that I
I
can't
don't
use the
ca-
bathroom.
I don't care that you
I
have a
don't
problem.
care that you have a problem.
Go speak with them. Please leave me alone.
Why don't you go home?
Ma'am, you gotta go.
No, I don't have
Yes,
to
you do.
go. Oh, no, I don't.
Can I get some help in the library? Yes, you do.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do. You're causing problems.
No. What's the definition of problem? You got a law citation for that?
Yes, I need some help in the library. Yes,
Okay, and Mr. Elegant, can you describe just what you saw, what you remember from that portion of the video, or what you're seeing in this portion of the video?
Yes, I felt she was antagonizing me, and I didn't want any problems, and I was trying to alleviate the situation.
Okay, and then as you testified earlier, is this what you described when you said that you began to walk away?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to continue playing the video now, Mr. Elegant.
I trust your judgment.
Okay. You wanna step outside? Huh?
Nah, I'm good
You
here.
wanna stay in here?
I might.
I'll just call the police.
Go ahead. I encourage you to call the police.
What's going on today?
Well, he wants to call the police on me, so let's call him.
She took the library key, and I told her to sign the paper. She said she don't have to. So I
That's
told
not
her.
our rules, that's the library's
Right.
rules.
That's what I told her. It don't even have nothing to do with me.
Tell him the
You-
rest.
You talking
Tell
to
him
the
the
wrong
rest.
person.
Tell him the rest. Then you told him I couldn't use the bathroom if I did that again.
Yes, because that's the policy, man.
No,
and
it's
you
not.
have to. You're gonna have to leave.
No, I'm not leaving.
Okay, Mr. Elgin, can you identify the other person we see in this video other than you?
Yes, that was a coworker. His name's Alex.
All right, so when you testified to a conversation with your coworker, is this the coworker you're referring to?
I was actually testifying to the coworker upstairs.
Okay, but you did have a conversation with this coworker as well?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna continue playing the video.
This lady won't leave.
Hey, how's it going?
That's my supervisor.
Can I help?
Well, it seems as though we have another problem with your security staff telling people they can't use the bathroom if they don't sign in. Well, I went ahead and used the bathroom,
You're
and I
totally
returned
entitled.
the key,
Totally entitled
and I
to use
returned
it.
the key, and then he proceeded to tell me that he won't be allowing that next time unless I sign my name. And yes,
That's
it's
not
all
right.
on video.
That's
And
not
then he
right.
told me to leave. And then he told me he was calling the police on me.
Okay, Mr. Elgin, I'm gonna back up just a few seconds so we can see the other person. Who is this individual? Do you recognize them?
Yes, that's my supervisor.
All right, so when you testified to having a conversation with your supervisor, is this who you referred to?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Video.
That's
And
not
then he
right.
told me to leave. And then he told me he was calling the police on me.
I think there's been a bit of misunderstanding here. I can help you out.
Look, I'm gonna leave because this ain't. I don't do this drama with that right there.
Well, quit. Go home.
No, I'm going upstairs. You have a good one.
Yeah, you too.
Oh, I will.
I'll see you in a minute.
I guess she here. You leave her alone.
Actually, why don't you take a break?
Huh? Okay. Thank you.
Got it? Yep. Cool.
Appreciate you, Alex.
All right, and Mr. Elgin, you testified earlier that your supervisor asked you to take a break and then you proceeded to leave the library. Is that what you're seeing here?
Yes.
Okay, and can you just explain a little bit again how you were feeling in this moment?
Well, I was feeling, I didn't want any problems or any issues, and I felt that she was pushing problems and issues. So, you know, I just wanted to get myself out of the situation.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Elgin.
Spirit bless your soul, cause seriously, bless your soul. Why you messing with me?
That's when I started feeling threatened.
Okay, and just to follow up on that, Mr. Elgin, the comments you made just a moment again when you asked why Miss Benson was following you, that is when you begin to feel threatened?
Yes.
Okay. And just to clarify your testimony as well, as you're exiting this door, is this the door to the Englewood Public Library?
Yes.
Okay, but is this outdoor area still within the Englewood Civic Center?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Dave, please help me. But she was. Man, if you go arrest me, I will call the police personally for me.
Go ahead.
Because I feel unsafe with you arrest.
Go ahead, call him. You're a public employee in a public building.
You
Call
ain't
the
got nothing-
police.
You don't have nothing better else to do. Your life is boring. You have to mess with one person who's not doing nothing to you. Seriously. God, it's like a Karen. I'm not gonna fall, get into your shit, because I will call the police.
You're going to take a shit? Is that what you said?
No, I'm saying I'm not gonna fall for your shit. because you are harassing me. And I will call the police on you if you keep harassing me.
Go ahead, call him.
All right, and based on your recollection, Mr. Elligan, why did you continually tell Miss Benson that you were thinking about calling the police?
Because I felt threatened.
Okay. And you mentioned again that you felt, in your testimony earlier today, you mentioned that you felt unsafe several times. Were you referring to
Yes.
while you're walking up the stairs there?
Yes, because she was walking right behind me and she was real close to me. And she would not leave me alone.
Thank you.
I really don't want to do that because I don't like drama. That's why
Call
I'm
him.
getting antsy right now because you causing.
Then you can't do your job. I suggest you clock out and go home.
This is what I took her.
Just call the police.
No, don't call the police. That's not gonna do anything. She can film. It's not gonna-
Okay, and can you identify this person that you're speaking to, Mr. Elligan?
Yes, that's my another coworker upstairs. He was working inside the courtrooms.
Okay, and that's the coworker that you earlier testified that you had a conversation with?
Yes.
Okay, can you just explain about the conversation or why you approached him?
Because I was asking for advice because I recently just started working there. So he was also helping training me in the earlier weeks. So I went to him to ask for advice.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Elligan.
But she keeps following me. Okay. Listen, she keep harassing me. I just thought you said
She can film. It's not-
Why don't you tell him why I'm filming you?
because you took the bathroom key and you didn't sign your name. And you broke the policy.
And he threatened to call the cops on me.
Yeah, because you keep following me, of course. I'm gonna do that.
But she didn't have to sign it.
Yeah, but
This is public.
I know, but
And Dave already told him to go take a break.
Just try to full size. There's nothing you can do, man.
okay. Look. All I'm saying is this right here. If she keeps doing this, I'm gonna have to eventually call the police if she keeps following me.
Call
She's
him.
gonna do this for the rest of the day.
Please, call
Yeah,
him.
but that's not gonna do any good. The police can't do anything about it. She can
Well, at
film.
least she can leave me alone.
Should have left me alone.
This woman is following me. You sure right.
What's that?
Okay, and at this moment, based on your recollection, Mr. Elligan, what are you doing?
I'm going outside because I'm actually trying to escape her, but I didn't. She followed me outside. I didn't think she was going to follow me outside. I thought maybe that was a safe haven for me.
Okay, thank you.
What'd you do? She's stalking me. She don't have nothing else to do with her life.
You're gonna be famous.
I sure is.
All right, and based on your recollection, Mr. Elligan, why did you say that she was stalking you?
Because I really did not know at the time.
Okay,
Like I didn't know that I didn't even know she was a YouTuber. I didn't know because I just recently started working there. And that was my first interaction with her.
okay, so understood. Thank you, Mr. Elligan.
Sure picked the wrong day to do this. You know something? I am so sorry. I apologize to you. You are so right.
I'm going to pause right there, Mr. Elligan. So based on your recollection, the statements you just made there, were they genuinely how you actually felt about the situation?
No, I was actually apologizing to her to try to get her to just leave me alone. I mean, I apologized to her because I wanted to alleviate the situation. Maybe she felt like I did something wrong. That's why I apologized to her, and I wanted to just leave me alone and let it be.
All right, thank you, Mr. Elgin.
You are. You're right. I apologize. I'm sorry. You like me? You like me, don't you? That's what it is.
There, she wouldn't leave me alone, so I kept trying to figure out any way I could to get her to leave me alone.
Mr. Elgin, I'll give you a chance to share any additional thoughts you have with the court in a moment. But for now, if you could just
Okay.
please wait until I ask you questions.
Okay, we'll do.
Yeah, thank you, thank you.
You got a crush on me? I'm handsome to you? Because I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not going to lose my cool. I'm not going to get mad at you. I'm not going to do nothing to you because I don't react like that. I stay full in control of myself. And if I have to call the police because you keep doing this, I will, regardless of what anybody say. Just to give us space because I don't
I
like
encourage
drama.
you. Call the police.
Man, I don't like that. I don't like
You don't like that idea?
No, man.
And based on your recollection, Mr. Elgin, did you want to call the police at this time?
I did not because I didn't want nobody. I didn't even want her to get in trouble. I just want her to leave me alone.
All right, and then why did you keep, saying throughout the video that you're going to call the police if that's not what you wanted to do?
To get her to leave me alone because I felt she was following me. I felt threatened, but I didn't want to. I didn't want to escalate the issue.
All right, thank you.
And I don't because the thing is why? Because you are a grown woman. You fully in control of yourself. You're doing this on purpose. I don't want to do this because you want to do this shit. You want to do this. Like, I'm not gonna react to this shit. I just don't feel like it. I just don't. Seriously. I'm just gonna take it as you like me and just say, you obviously you do. You keep looking at me.
All right, and Mr. Elgin, you made several references stating things to the effect that you thought Miss Benson liked you or was attracted to you or along those lines. Why did you say that based on your recollection?
To try to get her to leave me. I was trying anything I could to get her to leave me alone. So that was why.
Okay, so did you feel that was the last ditch effort to try to get her to leave you alone and stop filming you?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
It's funny because you remind me of when I was like 17, 18 years old. This woman about your age, she liked me and she damn near wanted to rape me. She was all up on me. Seemed like that's what you over here pushing up on me like this for. You want to keep a video like you want to look at it later.
And based on your recollection, Mr. Elgin, when you stated that Miss Benson was pushing up on you, were you referring to how close she was to you while she was filming?
Yes.
All right. And did that make you feel uncomfortable, how close she was?
Yes, very.
All right, thank you.
I don't know what you like, but I'm happily married. Sorry. I think she likes me, man. Well, I just told her I'm happily married. Right. You have a good one.
All right, and based on your recollection, Mr. Elgin, what was that room you just walked into in the video?
That's a locked room for employees only, and you have to have a key to access it.
Okay, so Miss Benson only stopped following you when you went into an employee-only section, based on your recollection?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much for watching the video. I'll just let the last few seconds play out.
Okay.
All right, thank you for your testimony, Mr. Elgin. I would like to give you the opportunity to say anything else that you would like the hearing officer to know about the incident.
Objection, Your
I
Honor.
was-
That's not an appropriate way to present evidence.
I would agree. Just a free-flowing narrative to say whatever.
Okay.
It's a direct exam.
Okay, understood, hearing officer. With that, we have no further questions at this time. Please stay on, Mr. Elgin. The opposing counsel is going to ask you some questions.
Okay.
Mr. Elligan, are you still there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. This video was taken on March 4th.
I want to be sure we can see Mr. Elegant on the screen. I know he's audibly here. There we go.
This video was taken when you were working on March 4th. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes.
And at that point, you said, you just testified that you didn't call the police because you didn't want Miss Benson to get in trouble.
No, I don't want anybody to get in trouble. I felt threatened and I just wanted her to leave me alone.
Okay. We're
I
going to talk,
figured there would be a way to do it.
and we're going to talk about each of those points separately. But first, I want to talk about 3 days later on March 7th, you did call to report Miss Benson, right?
3 days later?
Yes, that you called the city attorney's office?
No, they called me.
Oh, that's news to me. Can you tell us about that?
I don't remember exactly the conversation. I answered questions.
Okay, can you tell me who called you?
I don't remember his name.
It was a gentleman?
Yes.
Does the name Sergio Renteria sound familiar?
I have no recollection. It was a while back.
Okay, so you remember being at home on March 7th and getting a phone call from the city of Englewood?
Yes.
Okay, and can you tell us what the substance of that phone call was?
It was about what happened, but I have no recollection of the conversation.
Okay, so it's your recollection that someone from the city called you and was asking you questions about what had happened a couple of days before?
Asked and answered.
Yes.
Okay, let's not get overly
Okay, I understand.
technical.
Yeah.
We got a time limit here for Ms. Hubbard.
That's right. Okay, and by the time the city called you, had you already seen the YouTube video?
Yes, I've seen it.
Okay,
Yes, I've seen it.
I know you've seen it now. Had you seen it before the representative of the city called you?
I have no I'm not for sure, but I've seen it. I've seen it within a week after the situation happened,
Okay,
but I'm not for sure when exactly I seen it.
okay. So you at no point took steps to try to report this to the city?
No, not myself.
Okay. I want to touch on another issue you talked about. You just wanted Miss Benson to leave you alone.
Yes.
Okay. You first encountered Miss Benson in the library, right?
Yes.
And your supervisor, Dave, came down to the library and told you to go take a break.
Yes.
And you understood that you could take a break. You, as a security guard, have access to both the public parts of the building and the non-public parts of the building.
Yes.
And so, like we saw at the end of the video, you could badge into the employee locker room
Yes.
or other parts of the building that Miss Benson couldn't go to.
Yes.
And when you walked out of the library, there is a door just to the right that is a non-public door, correct?
I'm not for sure.
Before you go up the stairs, there's a door that the public cannot access.
Oh, yes, yes, it is.
Okay? You walked right past that door
Yes,
and you walked upstairs, correct?
yes,
And when you get upstairs, if you turn to the right, that's where the locker room is, correct?
yes,
And you could have walked over to the locker room and badged yourself in, right?
yeah,
And Ms.
yes,
Benson could not have followed you.
yes,
But you chose to go over to the courtroom, right?
yes. I had belongings up there that I had to get.
Oh, you're testifying that you needed to pick up things that you had left there?
Well, I had belongings upstairs.
Okay. So you think that's on the video?
Yes, when I went over there to the desk to the right, not to the left, not to inside the courtroom, but to the desk to the right.
Okay. And you
When I
went
went
over,
upstairs, I went to the right because I had belongings right there.
and talked to James, correct?
Yes, yes,
And then you walked outside.
yes.
And to walk
That's
outside, you actually had to walk directly past the employee locker room.
yes, because outside is my natural. That's my natural break area. That's where I always naturally take a break. I don't naturally take a break inside that break area right there.
Okay, so it's your preference to spend your break time outside,
Yes, because I smoke cigarettes.
okay? But you could have, if you were afraid and wanted to be alone and wanted to get somewhere Miss Benson couldn't go, you could have gone into the employee-only area.
Yes, I could have.
I want to back up a little bit and talk to you about your job at Englewood. The allied staff provide security for the entire complex, correct?
Yes,
And you're there to ensure the safety of the patrons, yes?
yes,
And to help enforce policies.
yes,
Okay. And you're aware that the library is a public part of the building
yes,
and that the stairs are a public part of the building
yes,
and that the lobby on the second floor is a public part of the building.
yes,
And the outside area that you went to smoke your cigarette is a public part of the building.
yes,
Okay. And it is your job, it was your job as an allied employee to monitor those areas, correct?
yes.
Are you familiar with the standards of behavior that apply at the Englewood City Civic Center building?
What are you applying to?
There's published standards of behavior that set out
Yes,
rules for the Civic Center building.
yes.
Are you aware of any rule that prohibits video recording in the public parts of the building?
Not to my knowledge.
Were you trained as an allied employee on people's right to record in a government public building?
Not exactly.
Tell me what you were trained on as an allied employee.
I was trained on securing the building.
Okay. You got no training on the rights of members of the public to, for example, pass out flyers to people who may be coming into the Civic Center building.
Not exactly. Not to my knowledge. I probably was told, but I don't remember exactly.
So you may have been told about people's First Amendment rights, you just don't remember.
No, I do not remember.
Okay. When you went up and talked to James in the court, James told you there was nothing you could do because Ms. Benson was allowed to record.
Yes,
And your supervisor, Mr. Richardson, told you that she was allowed to record.
yes,
And you knew that that was the way that this worked. She was allowed to record in the public parts of the building.
well, once I was told, yes, I knew she can do that.
Okay. As an allied employee, you are expected to interact with the public in a respectful manner
Yes.
and answer questions when you can
Yes.
and maintain a calm and respectful tone.
Yes.
When you called Ms. Benson a Karen, were you maintaining that respectful tone?
Yes.
Calling someone a Karen is considered by you to be respectful,
Yes, as long as it's not belligerent
okay?
and threatening.
When you told Ms. Benson to leave you alone, was that being respectful towards her?
Yes, because I was being respectful towards myself as well.
Okay? When you told her, I don't care if you have a problem, were you meeting the goals of your employer at that moment?
Yes.
In your opinion, telling a patron who is asking you questions, I don't care that you have a problem, that is, in your opinion, doing your job.
Yes, because she didn't care about my job as well.
Okay. So in your opinion, she wasn't showing you appropriate respect, so you didn't have an obligation to show her respect.
Yes, maybe I'm probably wrong for that, but yes, that's how I felt at the time.
Okay. When you were outside, you made a number of comments about Miss Benson being sexually interested in you.
Yes.
And you believe those comments were treating her with respect.
I was treating myself with respect because she was stalking me. I felt she was stalking me.
After this day, Mr. Elligan, you were advised by Allied that you would not be welcome back at the Civic Center building.
No, that's not what happened.
Tell us what happened.
Um, they they moved me from the post, and I went to another post.
Outside of the Civic Center building.
Yes. Yes.
And you wanted, it would have been your preference to stay at the post at the Civic Center building.
No.
So is it your testimony that you never told Englewood Police Officer Mulder that you wanted to stay at the Civic Center building?
I wanted to stay at that. I wanted to stay at the post until that situation occurred, and that's when I was like, no, I'd rather just leave because I seen the video and I was embarrassed.
Okay, so you were embarrassed by the video.
Yes.
Is it your testimony? Do you recall speaking with an Englewood police officer named Mulder?
I spoke with an Englewood police officer. I don't remember the name.
Okay. Related to this incident with Miss Benson.
Yes.
And you told her that you had been removed from your post and that was not what you wanted.
Yeah, I think I've said something to that extent. Yes.
Your supervisor while you were at the Civic Center building was Dave Richardson.
Yes.
And we saw him on video tell you, I believe it was 3, if not 4 times, to go take a break.
Yes.
He was giving you an out and telling you to go to the break room where Miss Benson could not have followed, right?
My natural break room would be outside. That's what I would naturally take a break at. So when he told me to take a break, that's the first thing I thought of, to take my break and go outside.
And then later,
I never took breaks in the break room.
Later, Mr. Richardson said, go to the break room, didn't he?
Yes.
And that's when you went outside.
I don't recollect that. I just remember he told me to take a break.
Mr. Elegant, you will agree with me that your interaction with Ms. Benson started because she had a problem with the way you were enforcing a policy, or what you claim to be a policy related to the bathroom key.
Yes, she wouldn't sign the paper.
Yes. And you testified, I believe, here that you thought it was a policy that you had to sign the paper in order to get the key.
Yes.
You know, Mr. Elegant, that wasn't the policy.
Well, I thought that was the policy at the time because that was that's what the library trained me on.
Well, Mr. Elegant, when you went up and talked to James, James said to you, that's not the policy. And you said, I know. Right? Wasn't that an interaction you had with James?
I don't think I said, I don't remember that. I have no recollection of that.
Okay. Well, the hearing officer's seen the video. I let her watch it and have her own impression of it.
Okay.
You understood that you were not to deny anyone access to the bathroom.
Yes, I didn't deny her access to the bathroom.
Well, you told her that next time if she didn't sign the paper, you wouldn't give her the key.
Yes, because I felt I was upholding the library's policy.
Okay, so it was you're telling her that next time she's not getting into the bathroom unless she follows this policy.
Yes.
Okay, so you're warning her that next time she's not getting access, correct?
Yes.
I have no further questions.
All right. Any redirect or? Okay.
Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Elegant. I have just a few additional questions for you, and then we should be able to wrap up.
Okay.
So you testified earlier and during opposing counsel's questions of you that you were asked by your supervisor to take a break.
Yes.
Okay, so when you were told to take a break, why did you go upstairs instead of the break room?
Well, I had belongings upstairs, and plus I naturally go outside to that area to take my rest break.
Okay, and when you refer to the belongings you had upstairs, are you referring to the portion of the video where you walk up the stairs and then walk to a table off to the right?
Yes.
Okay, and then when you continue to walk outside, that was because that's what you would normally do on a break, is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, and you testified during cross-examination that you're a smoker, so that's additional reason why you went outside?
Yes.
Okay. So during the time when Ms. Benson was following you upstairs and then outside, you've testified earlier that you did not feel safe. Can you just explain once again how you felt during that time?
I definitely felt unsafe because she kept following me. That's why I really thought that it would be a safe haven if I go outside. Maybe she wouldn't follow me out there. She would just leave me alone. But she kept following me. So.
Okay, and did you feel annoyed?
Yes,
we've
very.
covered all of this.
All right.
Sustain.
Oh, understood. Okay, moving on, just a few more questions, Mr. Elegant. Did you deny Ms. Benson access to the restroom on March 4th?
No, I didn't.
All right. And the video begins based on your recollection as she's walking back from using the restroom?
Yes.
Okay, and then in the future, while you were working with Allied Security, does Ms. Benson use the restroom again with you?
No.
Okay, so at no point, based on your recollection, have you ever denied Ms. Benson use of the restroom?
No point.
Okay. And then just the last few questions, Mr. Elegant. So you testified in cross-examination, as well as we saw in the video, that you called Ms. Benson a Karen, and then also made several comments to the effect that she was attracted to you.
Yes.
You've given some testimony already, but is there anything you'd like to clarify of why you made these comments?
Objection, Your Honor. We've heard
That was
all of this perspective on the
I was
video.
attempting to
Excuse
get
me,
her to
Mr.
leave me
Elegant.
alone. I tried everything else and didn't work, so I was attempting to get her to leave
Mr.
me alone.
Elegant, can
That
you
was my
please stop
bad.
talking just for a moment?
Please.
The hearing officer is trying to speak.
Okay.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Elegant. Excuse me, could you repeat your statement, Ms. Hubbard?
Yes, Your Honor, I believe he's had ample opportunity to testify about his feelings and his impressions during this interaction.
Is there any other point to the testimony you're trying to elicit at this time, Mr. Cash?
Hearing officer, we're not trying to beat a dead horse. We was just brought up on cross and we just wanted to clarify why he said that he testified that he didn't feel like he's being disrespectful. If you feel like that testimony is sufficient, we don't have anything additional.
I think it's sufficient.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, nothing else?
No further
Okay.
questions. Thank you, Mr. Allegan.
Thank you, Mr. Elegant.
Thank you.
Okay. Do you have another witness?
Yes. Would you like me to walk out and bring her in?
Sure. Yes.
Your Honor, may we have an offer of proof, just so I have an understanding as to the purpose of this witness? If the purpose is just to establish that Ms. Benson was served with the notice of exclusion, we would stipulate to as much.
Mr. Cash?
Yes. Our next witness is Christina Underhill. She's the supervisor of Carrie Watson, who did serve the notice of exclusion. The purpose is, one, to establish, as they would be willing to stipulate, that the notice was correctly served. And then in addition to that, she also had seen footage of the incident and had testimony as to her impression of what she saw as a library supervisor.
I don't believe the court needs someone else's impressions of a video that has been admitted into evidence.
I agree with that, Mr. Cash. And since there's a stipulation as to the serving of this notice being valid, and code requirements being met, I assume, Ms. Hubbard, then I don't think we need any further testimony. That seems fairly remote to me, someone else's impression of a video that they were not present for.
Understood, hearing officer, and the primary purpose was to establish that it was properly served, so if we're willing to stipulate to that, that is okay.
All right?
Am I able to let the witness know that she is free to go, or would she?
Oh, sure, let's do that pretty hastily.
Yes,
Ms. Benson would like to take a 2-minute break to use the restroom.
Of course, we'll do a 2-minute break and we'll resume at 12:18.
Thank you, Your Honor. And I can't not call you Your Honor.
That's okay. You know, if only my kids were here to hear that. How about right at the podium? You guys can both speak into the speaker so that it's all on the record. Well, if you, I guess, yeah, you can do that, and we'd have to turn on another microphone. Will another microphone work into the record if we turn it on here? There won't be any feedback problems or anything? So she can stand, Ms. Hubbard can stand right here? Or should we both work on the microphone at the podium?
Or I can go right here.
Right from the desk?
Yeah.
Let's do that. Let's do that. Okay, thank you. Logistics.
Please push to talk.
It should be on.
Obviously not, it's live.
It's on, yeah. All right, it is 12:21. We are back, and Ms. Hubbard, your witness?
If you go ahead and introduce yourself to the hearing officer.
Hi, my name's David Richardson. I'm a security guard with Allied. Until recently, I was the supervisor in charge of the security here at Englewood.
And Mr. Richardson, I would just like to ask you some questions about your general work at the Civic Center building. How would you describe the role of Allied and the Allied security guards with respect to the Civic Center building?
There's obviously a big security risk for people here being a public building, so our ultimate aim is to keep it secure and keep the people here safe. And that's what we do by patrolling and being available at doors to check who's coming in and what the risk might be as it comes into the building.
And is it your understanding that Allied essentially performs the services for the entire Civic Center building and the surrounding government property?
Yes, when I was here, we had responsibility for the top floor, which is all the building code people. This floor, the court, and then downstairs with the library, we had the rec centre down the way. We had the old people's home and a couple of parks that were our responsibility, and that was covered by foot patrols, by door sentries, and covered by drivers who would go and visit all the parks.
And is that a contract that is paid by the city of Englewood, as far as you know?
I believe so, yes.
And through your work at the Civic Center building, did you come to know a woman named Regan Benson?
Yes, I did.
And tell me your understanding of what Ms. Benson comes to the Civic Center building to do.
First Amendment auditor is what we are all, I think, aware of. She would come and look and ask questions and investigate in asking people the questions like what is happening, what's going on, and very pleasant to me as well, very, very nice. And I don't think anybody, since I've been here, has had any problems. It's just a two-way conversation, and we try and facilitate. She's a member of the public as well.
Did you have regular interactions with Ms. Benson?
Yes.
Were those, what was the tone of those interactions typically?
Very cordial, very nice, and friendly at times.
Okay. And did you understand Ms. Benson was there to help keep government accountable?
Yes.
And to ensure policies were applied fairly?
Yes.
And did you see Ms. Benson advocating on behalf of disadvantaged populations?
I have seen that, yes, personally.
Tell us about one of your observations.
Once she came to look at the court, the 1 o'clock hearing, and there was an older gentleman who was hard of hearing and had a problem with his phone. Mrs. Benson, she took about an hour out of her own time to go and sit with this gentleman and work out what his problem with his personal phone is and get through his hearing problems and resolve the problem for the gentleman. And he had nothing to do with the court that day. He was just a member of the society who needed some help. And she did a good job on that. And he went away, enlightened and happier.
And we are here to talk about a video that was taken on March 4th that started related to a policy regarding the bathroom key, okay?
Yes.
Are you familiar with that video?
Yes, I have seen that video.
Okay. I want to back up a little bit before March 4th. Were you aware that Ms. Benson had an interest in what the library's policy was regarding access to the bathrooms?
Yes.
How were you aware that she cared about that issue?
It's something you become aware of when you talk and have a conversation, what people's rights are. So I was aware that she wanted to make sure that people had unfettered access to the bathrooms and other parts of the building as well that things needed.
And during the kind of months leading up to March 4th, was there a changing policy as it related to access to the bathroom?
Yes. First of all, we were never stationed in the library as a security guard. Our station point, and up until I was moved on to another contract, the policy still said that we would be stationed at the rear door, but the library insisted that we move in and take over the position for the guard that was paid for by the library as a civilian staff member. And we took over his position. First of all, we weren't even allowed the security cameras to look at, and that left us blind, so our security level reduced dramatically. They acquiesced and let us have a look at the cameras so we could actually try and see who was entering the building. First of all, it was only one person in one of the lavatories at a time. That's male and female, so only one male or one female in at a time. We were meant to take a name from them for each time. They were given a badge. That badge, they would take it into the bathroom, open the door with the electronic tag, and then return it to us afterwards, and then we'd tick their name off the end. I was told, because I kept asking, why are we doing this? Oh, it's to stop prostitution and drug dealing in the bathroom. Beth then came up and changed the policy willy-nilly, didn't actually tell me, told one of the other guards, and I found out by having to go and speak to her, that we're going to allow 3 people in the bathroom at a time, either male or female, so that's 6 total. And then about a week later it came up and she said, right, okay, if anybody else wants to go to the bathroom with the 3 people that are in there, you ought to get off your podium, stop your security bit and go and let them into the bathroom. So we were forever walking backwards and forwards, letting people into the bathroom. There could be numerous people left in that bathroom. So the whole idea of stopping prostitution and drug dealing in the bathroom seemed to be out the window. And the policy just seemed to flip-flop and change all the time.
And forgive me if I'm misinterpreting, it seems like you had some confusion and frustration related to this allied being laboratory attendants for the librarians.
Yes, I've actually talked to my boss and I said, look, what do you want us to be, lavatory attendants or security guards? Security guards.
And as a supervisor in the Englewood Civic Center building, did you give instructions to the allied employees as to whether they were to ever deny someone access to the bathroom?
Never. They were never to deny anybody any access to a public bathroom.
Okay, so just to be clear, because I think I asked the question in an awkward way, you did give them instructions on that?
Yes.
And
Every single one of the people that came to be posted in the library had not only instructions from the people who've worked that position, but directly from me, that this is what you do.
Okay, and that would include Mr. Elligan?
Yes.
Okay. Did you also train or give instruction to allied employees about how to respectfully interact with patrons at the library or the Civic Center building?
Yes.
And what were those instructions?
Polite, respectful at all times, and obviously from a security perspective, if there's some sort of confrontation, we go through the Allied Security Protocol, which is to disengage, and if necessary, we would inform law enforcement.
Okay, so Allied Security, your company, has a separate protocol that you're to follow when things start to become escalated?
Yes.
Okay. And does that protocol involve going outside to smoke a cigarette?
I've always said if the guys want to take a break to smoke, don't do it at the front door. Go away from the building, and that's what I've told them. However, I don't police every guard that goes out the front door.
Sure. You also, as allied employees, have access to non-public parts of the building?
Correct.
Okay. I want to talk to you about March 4th in particular. That's the day on the video. Okay? Do you recall encountering Mr. Elligan and Miss Benson in the library?
Yes, I do.
And what was your observation as to how Mr. Elligan was responding to Miss Benson?
I was a little bit shocked as to what he actually said and how he said it.
How so?
Well, when I came down into the library, he'd obviously got a confrontational sort of look on his face and stance, and Miss Benson was holding the video camera up, not very close, and I heard him physically say, the next time you come, I am not giving you the bathroom card, which is totally against my training and what everybody has told that guy what to do.
Okay. And what did you advise Mr. Elligan he should do at that point?
At this point, it was during the disengagement. I told him to go and take a break, and I put another guard in his seating position and briefed him as to what I wanted him to do.
Okay. And when you said go take a break, where did you expect him to go?
To the break room.
And is
It's
that a non-public part of the building?
correct.
Okay. Then you later encountered Mr. Elegant and Ms. Benson again in the second floor atrium.
Correct.
Were you surprised to see them?
Very much so.
Why?
Because I told him to go and take a break and I expected him to follow my direct order and he did not.
Did you observe their interaction at that point?
Yes, he was sort of walking towards the back door, being followed at a distance by Miss Benson.
Okay. Did you give him any instruction at that point?
Yes, I said, I told you to go and take a break.
Okay. And did he go take a break at that point?
No, he did not.
Okay. And then did you later encounter them again outside? Or as they were coming back inside?
You'd have to watch the video for that one.
No problem. I'm just
I may have
asking.
seen them, I may have been in the same place, but
Okay.
I don't think I actually said much at the time.
Okay. Do you have recollection? The hearing officer's seen the video, so I don't need you to testify about what you remember after watching the video. So do you have any recollection about further engagement with Ms. Benson and Mr. Elegant on that day?
No.
Okay. I want to ask you about, outside of March 4th, have you seen Ms. Benson recording people in other parts of the Civic Center building?
Yes, in a way, because she's got the camera on, so she's in the building. But she's never gone into any part of the building that is not public.
Does her recording in the building, in the public parts of the building, to your knowledge, violate any policy of the Englewood Civic Center?
None that I know of.
Okay. Do you believe that she has a right to record in the public parts of the building?
Yes, I do. In fact, that's what Allied have told us, that she has the right to do that.
Okay, tell us more about what you learned from Allied.
Well, Allied has changed or beefed up its policy recently since I moved to Aurora. It's treat them with respect, they are allowed to film, and obviously if there's a confrontation, then that's when we would be involved. And we have not had, in my time here, a confrontation where I would have to intervene.
Okay, so after this whole kerfuffle with Ms. Benson recording on March 4th, Allied has since kind of rolled out new training to employees.
Yeah, they've beefed up the training and they've given a video, and it wasn't specifically for Miss Benson, it's other places which are, there was an incident in Aurora that a guard had to be let go, and they've beefed up and ensured that everybody has to sign to say that they've watched the video of how to deal and what they need to say.
But on March 4th, that sounds like that has all happened after March 4th, right? On March 4th, had Allied given you training and instruction on people's right to record in public spaces of the government building?
No formal training, just word of mouth, this is how you do it.
This is how you do it. So you knew on March 4th that Ms. Benson had a right to record.
Correct.
If I could just check my notes real quick, I think we covered everything. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any cross, Mr. Cash?
Yes, hearing
yeah,
officer. Just one moment. Okay. Sorry, I'm tall, I'll try to bend over.
If you have trouble hearing, just let him know.
I can
But,
hear you.
or
It's
if
just
we
that
are
camera.
having
If you can
trouble
hear me,
getting
that's
it
fine. I can
on the
hear you.
record.
I
Okay.
previously introduced myself. My name's Nathan Cash. I'm representing the city in this matter. I'm just going to ask you a few questions. Please just keep your answers brief. Most of the time, a yes or no will suffice. But
Mr.
please-
Cash, I'm just going to interrupt real quickly.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask Englewood City staff, are you picking up Mr. Cash's voice? Yes, we're good. Okay, continue.
I got you.
Thank
But
you.
if you don't understand any of my questions, feel free to ask me to rephrase.
I will.
Happy to do so. So just to clarify, so you testified that Ms. Benson approached you in the library on March 4th, 2024?
No, she didn't approach me. She was already engaged with Damien.
But you spoke with her, correct?
Not at that point, no. I did say along the lines of, what's going on, how can I help? At which point, I did not get a reply from Miss Benson. Damien spoke.
Okay, so is it your testimony today you did not speak with Ms. Benson on March 4th in the library?
I'll take the fifth on that. I don't know whether I actually physically looked her in the eye and spoke to her, but I did speak, and I spoke mainly to Damien because he's my employee. He's my major responsibility.
Gotcha. Hearing officer, if it's permissible, I'd like to approach in order to show up just a small portion of that video to refresh the witness's recollection?
Okay, I'm not, sure, this is relevant. Let's make sure that Ms. Hubbard is able to observe at the same time.
Yes.
Are you going to be showing the video on your?
If it's okay for me to approach the stand, I believe we can show it up here if I have access to that computer.
No, I was actually intending to do this earlier and I forgot. My office made transcripts
Okay.
of the recording that I was intending to offer because I think I personally prefer to work
Yeah.
from a transcript. I can share these with you guys and then maybe we wouldn't have. to-
Your office transcribed it?
Yes.
Have you had a chance to review this transcription?
I was unaware of the transcript until just now, Your Honor, or hearing officer.
I mean, we can just use it for illustrative purposes. You can play the video if you want, but this way you guys have the transcripts. I think it's easier.
Okay, because we have I don't know we have anybody that's agreed to the veracity of this transcript that's in front of us.
If you find it helpful, you can use it. If you don't,
Okay.
Yeah.
As long as, the question was, do you object if we show them a portion of the video? And you said no. So I'll allow you to proceed.
Okay, thank you.
Will you be showing, again, this video on your computer or up here on the,
It will be displayed.
it will be on the screen so everyone in the room can see it?
Yes, it'll just be a very brief portion with regard to the question I just asked.
Okay.
And then, may I approach very quickly
Please.
just to play the video? I know we have a setup over here.
Oh, you need to plug it in. Okay.
All right, and I'm going to go ahead and just skip ahead. Okay, so before I start playing this video, so you stated that you could not recall the extent to which you had a conversation with Ms. Benson?
No.
So you stated that you testified that you did not have a communication with Ms. Benson in the library?
You'll have to watch the video because this was about a year ago, guys.
Well,
And I haven't seen the video since.
You recall what happened?
I haven't seen the video since the day, so.
Okay, well, let me just play a quick portion, we'll see if it refreshes your recollection.
That's the library.
Right. That's what I told him. He don't even have nothing to do with me.
Tell him the rest.
You
Tell
talking to
him
the
the
wrong
rest.
person.
Tell him the rest. Then you told him I couldn't use the bathroom if I did that again.
Yes, because that's the policy, man.
No,
and
it's
you
not.
have to. You're gonna have to leave.
No, I'm not leaving.
And this lady won't leave. And she's
Hey,
causing
how's it going?
problems here with me.
Leave it with me.
Okay.
Sure, please.
Okay.
Can I help?
Well, it seems as though we have another problem with your security staff telling people they can't use the bathroom if they don't sign in. Well, I went ahead and used the bathroom,
You're
and I
totally
returned
entitled.
the key,
Totally entitled
and I
to use
returned
it.
the key, and then he proceeded to tell me that he won't be allowing that next time unless I sign my name. And yes,
That's
it's
not
all
right.
on video.
That's
And
not
then he
right.
told me to leave, and then he told me he was calling the police on me.
I think there's been a bit of misunderstanding here. I can help you out.
Look, I'm gonna leave because this ain't. I don't do this drama.
Okay, thank you. Now that you've seen that portion of the video, do you remember having a conversation with Ms. Benson?
Obviously.
Okay. And she said that she was not being allowed to use the restroom, correct?
She said she was refused it, but used the bathroom
Okay.
anyhow.
Yes. And then you told Ms. Benson that she is allowed to use the restroom,
Yes, I think that was clear.
and you communicated that there had been a misunderstanding, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so at this point, did Ms. Benson, based on your recollection, continue to follow Mr. Elligan?
She, I believe, left soon after he went out the doors of the library, which are to the right.
Okay, and can you clarify when you say she left following him or left the building?
No, she left following. I was busy talking to Alex to get him to take over the position.
Right.
So I didn't follow, once the doors were closed, I didn't see them.
And based on your numerous interactions with Mr. Elligan, did he seem annoyed to you at this time?
Yeah, he seemed a little flustered. He's usually a little cooler than that.
Okay, understood. And moving on, you testified in your direct examination that there are no policies against recording in a public building, or more specifically in the Englewood Public Library. Is that correct?
I am unaware of any policies that says you cannot record in the public spaces.
I gotcha. And are you aware of the standards of behavior issued and published by the city of Englewood?
Well, it's been a while. I probably have read them, but things have changed.
Okay. I mean,
They keep changing all the time.
To your recollection, so it's, let me rephrase. So it's nothing against the rules to your knowledge to film, you already answered, but to your knowledge, are people allowed to harass, intimidate, or threaten other individuals in the library?
Well, that's just common sense to start with, but it's never been trained to me that I shall intervene or do something at this at the state. If there's a problem, then I would be called.
Right. I understand, but to your understanding, is you're testifying that it's common sense that obviously you're not allowed to harass or intimidate or threaten someone inside the library.
Yes,
Is that correct? Okay. Let me review for one moment, hearing officer. Okay, no further questions, thank you.
Can I ask one?
No,
Definition, no? Okay.
No.
'Cause I answered that question, and I
redirect?
know what a harassment level is from this point of view.
So it's okay. Well, hang on.
I have no further questions.
I have one question.
Yep.
You have not seen the standards of behavior published by the city?
I probably did, but I can't recall when, where, how, or what.
And those were
And
not
I've moved
part,
to a different position, so I forgot it.
right. Those were not part of the training administered to, or provided through or by Allied Security.
I am going to have to refer you to whatever the training book, the manual that is at Damien's desk says, and the post orders which are at James's desk here. I cannot remember which amendment of those orders we are talking about.
Thank you. All right. All right, I have no further questions. Thank you so much, Mr., was it Richardson? Yeah.
Your Honor, we would call Ms. Benson as our final witness. Can you introduce yourself to the hearing officer?
Regan Benson. I am the executive director of my own nonprofit that does direct street outreach with the homeless community. The basis of my work is in between Englewood and Denver, and it brings me into the Civic Center often. This has been 5 years that I've been in this position, and the services that we work with our clients on, as well as other volunteers work with our clients on, are clearing warrants, which brings us into the courts here in Englewood often, provide shelter during inclement weather, meetings in the library, and just a variety of other pertinent issues needing addressed in homelessness.
And through your nonprofit, is it one of your goals or missions to advocate on behalf of the homeless population that you serve?
It absolutely is.
And related to that advocacy, have you, do you have an interest in access to the public bathrooms in the Englewood Public Library?
And then, yes,
And can you go back prior to March 4th and tell me what steps you took to investigate the policy regarding access to the public bathroom in the library?
yes. I did a series of records requests. I actually had conversations with the city manager, and it was evident right away that no policies existed whatsoever, even around bathroom usage.
So you, through your investigation and through your conversations, learned there was no policy that allowed people to be, that allowed restrictions to be placed on access to the bathrooms?
There was no policy provided to me in an official records request.
Okay. So going into March 4th, was it your understanding that people could freely use the bathroom?
Absolutely.
Okay. Why were you at the Civic Center building on March 4th?
March 4th was a Monday. It was a city council meeting. I had a homeless client with me who had experiences in Englewood and wanted to come speak to city council that evening, as have previous clients as well. And so we were kind of in a hurry. We came to the library because she was going to wait in the library for me to return to the city council meeting. And I have some medical issues and take a diuretic, and I often need a restroom without interference. And I had my client wait for me in my car right outside the library in the parking garage because she was eating a meal that I just purchased for her. And I said, I'll be right back. I got to run and use the bathroom.
So when you came into the bathroom to the library to use the bathroom, who was at the security guard station?
I've learned since then that it was Damien. I had no idea who this individual was.
He was not familiar to you?
Correct.
Okay. And tell us about your interaction with Mr. Elligan.
Well, when I walked in, I saw that the keys were still there. I thought this process had changed. I was under the understanding that it was not this restrictive still. And I did see a clipboard there. And I said, excuse me, I've got to use the restroom. You can't use the restroom unless you sign in. I said, I don't have time to sign in. And I took the key and went to the restroom.
Okay. And then, were you recording during that interaction?
No.
No. When did you start recording?
Right as I stepped outside of the bathroom, because I knew that he was going to escalate the situation because he continued to raise his voice at me as I went to the bathroom. Hey, you can't do that. You can't do that.
And that was on your way into the bathroom?
Correct.
So you started recording as you were going back to approach him?
Correct.
And what was the purpose of your recording of your interaction?
Because I felt like he was going to escalate that situation. I did not know this individual. I'd never had contact with him. I had a homeless individual out in the car. I wasn't sure what was going to happen. So because it is my right to record my interactions with government officials or anyone under contract with government using taxpayer dollars, I started recording.
Okay. And you had an interaction, and I don't want to talk about the video at length because we've seen it all. But you had an interaction with Mr. Elligan, and then he was told to go take a break and went up outside of the library and upstairs. You remember that?
I do remember that.
And you followed him and continued recording?
Yes.
Why did you follow him and continue recording?
Well, because at that point, he had already threatened to call the cops on me. And at that point, it is my First Amendment right and my right to protect myself with any interactions that I may have with the police. At that point, I didn't know if he'd already called the police. I always record my interactions with the police because my encounters sometimes are not okay, and they are not okay for the homeless. That was the reason initially that I continued the recording. As he walked out of the library and continued to talk to me, I figured that he wanted to say more, or I didn't know where he was going outside of that library, and I was able to record him.
So you were documenting the efforts of someone who's being paid by the taxpayer?
I was documenting, interactions with public employees.
And were you intending to harass Mr. Elligan? Was that your purpose?
Absolutely not.
At any point in time on March 4th, did you access a non-public part of the building?
No.
When did you stop recording?
When he went into an access-controlled part of this building.
Do you believe the population you serve, the homeless population, has an interest in access to public bathrooms?
They absolutely do, and they are often denied the use of a public restroom. And it's unfortunate that Englewood continues to take this position in that library when they can come to the second floor and use this restroom unobstructed.
Do you believe the public has an interest in understanding how their taxpayer dollars are being used to pay security guards?
Absolutely. And the only way to show that is to document that by exercising my First Amendment right to record.
Do you believe it is important to document how people in positions of power interact with those who are not?
Absolutely.
And were those reasons part of why you were recording on
They
tape?
were all of those reasons.
Okay. If I could just have a minute to check. I don't have any further questions.
All right, Mr. Cash.
Good afternoon, Ms. Benson. I know you've heard me introduce myself several times already, but my name is Nathan Cash. I'm an attorney with the city. I'm just going to ask you a few questions about your testimony today. Like I said, please answer as briefly as possible, but feel free to ask me to rephrase if you don't understand something.
Understood.
So we have stipulated today, correct, that you were properly issued the notice of exclusion and ejection, correct?
I'm sorry, state that again?
Your Honor, I have stipulated on Ms. Benson's behalf as her representative.
And just for your information, hearing officer, we would like to admit this into evidence. If you feel it's already sufficiently part of the record, then we can forego that, but otherwise I would like to present it to verify its authenticity to Ms. Benson.
Just the notice of exclusion.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
go right ahead. I do have some record preservation questions, and so, yeah, let's do that and make sure that's all in.
Okay, understood. Thank you, hearing officer. So just to rephrase my question, Ms. Benson, you were given a notice of ejection and exclusion?
Yes.
Okay, and then let the record reflect, I am handing a copy to Ms. Benson. You can take that. And then I'm also,
And we've got a stipulation on the record, is that is correct? And- Okay, all right.
and can you just verify for me, or let me rephrase that, can you please take a moment to review the document I just handed you, Ms. Benson?
What am I
Or
reading
did you
this word
recognize?
for word, or?
No, do you?
Okay, yes,
Okay, and do you recognize this document?
yes.
Okay, and what is it?
It is a notice of ejection exclusion.
Okay, and this is, to your knowledge, a fair and accurate copy of what you were issued, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and I'd like to note for the record, I'd like to enter this as Exhibit 1, hearing officer.
That's entered.
Okay, and I can bring you a copy as well.
Thank you. Exhibit 1, notice of ejection exclusion.
Okay, thank you for that, Ms. Benson. I'm going to move on a little bit to the incident that occurred on March 4th, 2024. So you testified today that on March 4th, 2024, you went to the Englewood Public Library, correct?
Yes.
And you went to use the restroom?
Yes.
Okay, and you began to film while you were walking back from the restroom, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and then as you approached the desk with the bathroom key, Mr. Elligan told you that he could not allow you to use the restroom in the future unless you signed your name, is that correct?
Something to that effect, yes. I don't know if
Okay.
those were the exact words.
Okay, thank you. And without going through every specific that was said, is it fair to say that you and Mr. Elligan, had a discussion or an argument about the policy?
There were words used, yes.
Okay, but y'all discussed the policy and you expressed your disagreement with the policy, correct?
No, we did not discuss that.
Okay, but you expressed that you were not going to sign your name to use the restroom, correct?
Prior to that
Yes.
interaction,
And, okay. So, all right, and to your recollection, did Mr. Elligan repeatedly ask you to speak with other library staff?
no, he did not.
Okay, so just to confirm, you're saying that in the, the video we witnessed today, as well as your recollection of the event, that Mr. Elgin did not ask you to speak with other library staff instead
No,
of it?
he did not.
Okay, hearing officer may approach to play a portion of the video to, for impeachment purposes.
If you can tell me what the relevance is of this part of the discussion to your burden of proof on the issue of,
Yes,
before
hearing
me.
officer. No, I apologize, I am trying to keep things brief.
I am
The
too.
relevance is that, or burden of proof is that Mr. Elgin felt harassed, he continually asked to be stopped, followed, stopped to be filmed, tried to redirect Ms. Benson, and she refused to do so. I do believe it's important to establish that he did repeatedly express his displeasure or his annoyance with the fact that he was being followed and filmed.
I mean, I think that's been established.
Okay,
Okay?
we can move on.
I still am trying to see how you're going to prove that a rule violation occurred. Trying to keep this relevant to that. That is your burden today.
Okay,
So,
yes, hearing
yeah.
officer, I understand.
So let's direct your testimony to, your cross on that.
Okay, yes. All right, let me just review my questions very quickly, Ms. Benson. I'll try to skip through anything that hearing officer has indicated that we've already covered. Okay, Ms. Benson, can I quickly turn your attention back to the exhibit that I handed you, more specifically the notice of exclusion? And if you could please turn to the second page of that document for me. And I apologize to hand out the copy, so you don't have one in front of me right now, but on that second page, or would you please take a moment to review that page? Okay, and then Ms. Benson, on that page, does it indicate why you were excluded from the library?
Objection, Your Honor, as to the relevance of going through what it says on a piece of paper that's been previously admitted.
Your point on this, Mr. Cash?
Trying to establish that a rule violation was admitted. My understanding is that because we stipulated to the fact that it was properly issued, one of the criteria for a properly issued notice of exclusion is that it correctly identifies a rule violation. So I was taking it as a given that it has been established that a rule violation pursuant to the standards of behavior has been correctly identified.
I would stipulate that there is boxes checked on this that indicate that someone thinks there was a rule violation. To the extent that that has any weight or in this hearing, which is supposed to determine whether there actually was a rule violation, I'm not sure that there's any weight to it, but I will stipulate that there are boxes checked indicating and giving Ms. Benson notice that she's alleged to have committed a rule violation.
And I apologize for any confusion, hearing officer. My understanding of the stipulation was to the effect that a rule violation was correctly identified, and the only thing that we were discussing is whether or not Ms. Benson met the criteria for those rule violations.
That's not my understanding of
Okay.
the stipulation. This exhibit was admitted for purposes of the fact that it was properly served and provided to Ms. Benson
Yes.
as required, not for the substance of the document or the allegations contained therein. That's the point of today's hearing.
Yes.
Is to establish whether or not a rule violation occurred, what rule was violated, and whether or not that was lawful. And so I'm not seeing how this document establishes what the rule is or that it was violated. That's what all the other stuff is about. So we can't admit this for those purposes.
Okay. Yes, hearing officer, and I understand, I do apologize for my mistake and my miscommunication. I would go back to then when we discussed the previous witness I was going to bring in. I was going to have her testify about the standards of behavior including the specific rules of the city. I incorrectly assumed that that would be part of the stipulation, that there was a correct rule.
Yes, you did.
Violation. Okay. And I'm assuming at this point I've already presented my case. Am I able to call that witness back? And I do really apologize, hearing officer.
I'm going to allow counsel for Ms. Benson to argue on this because we are on her case at this point.
I understand.
Can we just finish Ms. Benson's testimony and then take that issue up?
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, sounds good. All right, with regards to that, Ms. Benson, then I have no further questions at this time. Thank you.
Your Honor, I want to make sure, I got a little bit confused about what the issue is. So let me just say it, and if I get anything wrong, then please correct me. You want to call a librarian to a library supervisor who was not present on the day in question to offer their opinion about how the standards apply that are in the violation notice.
Correct. We wanted to call a librarian who had seen footage of the video, but also has knowledge of the Englewood standards of behavior, including what kind of violations can result in exclusion, and has issued exclusion notices herself to establish what the rules are.
Your Honor, I believe that's essentially putting a lawyer on the stand, that's your job, I would say, is to determine whether he has proven a violation of any of the standards of conduct. That's prong one of the hearing today. And then prong two is that the exclusion order issues only if the duration and scope and everything is lawful. So I don't understand how a librarian offering her opinion about when somebody has committed threats, intimidation, harassment, or violated CRS 189111 sub 1 sub C is relevant. It also seems like, not to rely on the rules of evidence, but somewhat of opinion testimony that hasn't been disclosed and hasn't been noticed. I don't think a librarian, even a library supervisor, is in a better position than the hearing officer to decide whether there's been a violation of policy or not.
So how are we going to know what the rules are? That's my question.
Yes, hearing officers.
And is it possible to get, is it Ms. Watson?
Ms. Watson issued the exclusion notice.
She's not the person you intend to call?
No, she was unable to appear today. It is Christina Underhill, who is her supervisor.
Who
Was
not present?
No hearing.
Who does not have personal knowledge of what happened on the day, and who was not involved in the issuance of this notice of exclusion?
Correct, Your Honor. However, the reason we're trying to call her is to have her look at the notice of exclusion and identify that the rule violations marked on the notice of exclusion do accurately reflect the City of Englewood standards of behavior, which she does have knowledge of as staff of the library.
Well, I do want to know what those standards of behavior are. And, yes,
Can we stipulate to them? I mean,
Mr.
I have
Cash?
copies as well. That's great for me. Yeah. I reviewed this.
I mean, I think that is very germane
Yes.
to the essence of today's hearing. And I'm receiving a document from Ms. Hubbard, reading Standards of Behavior, City of Englewood, starting with a purpose statement, Tier 1, Tier 2. I see no date on this, but I will ask both counsel if their stipulation extends to the fact that these were the rules in place on March 4th of 2024, and that they are the rules that are alleged in part to have been violated pursuant to Exhibit 1.
Your Honor, all I can say is that's what we found online yesterday.
Mr. Cash?
I mean, we can say that that was part of the testimony as well from Ms. Underhill, is that these standards of behavior were in place on March 4th, 2024. I can verify that what opposing counsel presented to you is what we have here for our standards of behavior as well, hearing officer.
That you have conferred with your client about, and yeah, I mean, is Ms. Underhill available to get here for 5 minutes?
I believe so. Could I give her a quick call, see if she can get here in 2 or 3 minutes? I believe she's in the building.
You believe she's what?
I believe she's still in the building.
let's try that, because I think that's our best shot, being mindful of our time and limitations.
Yes, hearing officer, and I apologize for the frustration.
Let's just get it going.
Understood.
Your Honor, Ms. Benson is going to step out briefly.
Of course.
I'm here, sir. I'll try to call her one more time. I have not been able to get hold of her.
Okay. No answer?
No hearing officer.
Okay. We do have a stipulation to these being a standards of behavior.
Your Honor, the only thing I cannot say in good faith, that they were in effect on March 4th. So that's the only thing I don't know.
Understood. So we have some document that appears and has been represented as something that was in place March 4th, and it appears to, on examination, while not identical to the violations notice or specified on the notice of objection exclusion, to be fairly similar. So I think we will admit this as stipulated Exhibit 2 for the substance wherein without any kind of confirmation that they were in effect on March 4th, but no dispute as to that either. Before we move on to closing statements, which will be brief, we have a video that was admitted for a very limited purpose, right? That was for Mr. Elegant's presence and to the extent it supports his recollection of the event. Okay, that needs to be part of the record so that we can preserve it in accordance with the city rules. How do you propose we have this video admitted into record? I think maybe before you leave, you guys could agree on sending a link to my assistant Karen Struess, that it would, and I would maintain that as part of the record. Do you have, I'll entertain alternate proposals for that, if you have any, or take agreement on that fact.
I was provided it via a Dropbox link.
Yep.
So if.
I would be
that-
happy to provide that as well.
All right, you'll send a Dropbox link to this video that was utilized today to my assistant Karen Struess. Please copy opposing counsel.
Yes, I can do that before we leave as well.
Okay. We also have this transcript that was provided.
Yes.
Is that going to be submitted as an exhibit or not?
I was unaware of the transcript before today. I did not have a chance to review.
Well, then let's just let the video speak for itself.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for the effort, notwithstanding that. All right, any other matters we need to address?
Yes, Your Honor, before we rest, we would like to offer into evidence one of the violations that Ms. Benson is alleged to have committed is a violation of 18-9-1111C, which Ms. Benson was also charged with that in Arapahoe County Court. I believe the court can take judicial notice of court filings in another matter.
Yes.
So I have, and I'll distribute them, a copy of a motion to dismiss her for bill of particulars, which I believe I already provided to the hearing officer.
You did, but I appreciate you bringing it here and in front of counsel and in this proceeding.
And then I also have a copy of an order that was entered by the court directing the district attorney to respond to that motion.
Okay,
And then what the district attorney did not respond, and instead we had a court date where he dismissed the case. So I have a copy of the minute order that was entered for that.
We don't object to the omission, we just don't see how it's relevant whether a connected case under a same violation was dismissed without being tried on the merits to the burden of proof today. Because my understanding is the case was dismissed because Mr. Elligan was unable to provide witness, is that correct? Or to the extent you want to address that, that was my understanding?
That is not my understanding.
Okay, well, that's open. Again, I would just reiterate that we don't see how it's relevant what happened with its other criminal case that's separate from the violation we're discussing today.
I'm gonna admit it as a composite exhibit 3. We're gonna make the video Dropbox exhibit 2, right?
I believe we had the standards were 2.
Oh, that's right, sorry,
3 and 4.
standards, yes, were 2. Video is 3 via the link, and I'm gonna take judicial notice of this to the extent relevant. The document submitted by Ms. Hubbard, composite exhibit 4. Thank you.
And as far as evidence goes, that is all I have on behalf of Ms. Benson.
All right, thank you. All right, closing statements.
Yes, hearing office. And being mindful of time, I will be brief, hearing officer. Hearing officer ready? Wait, I'm posting this.
What?
I just asked, are you ready? I apologize.
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. As introduced earlier, my name is Nathan Cash. I am representing the city in this matter. The issue today at dispute is very narrow. It's specifically whether the city has demonstrated by preponderance of evidence that Ms. Benson committed the rule violations and that the issuance, duration, and conditions of the exclusion are lawful. As we have discussed probably more than we would have hoped to, we have stipulated that the issuance, duration, and conditions of the exclusion were lawful. Or let me, if I may rephrase.
Yeah, I think you
apologize.
should
Yeah.
rephrase.
The issuance of the, we have stipulated that the issuance of the notice of exclusion was lawful pursuant.
No, I don't think we have.
Your Honor, I believe we've stipulated that Ms. Benson received proper notice for purposes of due process, and that's all.
That is my understanding, Mr. Cash. Please proceed.
Yes, understood. Okay, but the standard the city has to meet is the burden of proof by preponderance of the evidence that Ms. Benson committed the rule violations and that the issuance, duration, and the conditions of the exclusion are lawful. As demonstrated today through testimony and evidence that you've seen, hearing officer, the city has not only met but has exceeded its burden. I am going to begin by discussing the rule violations themselves, hearing officer. Englewood Municipal Code, section 1143B6 defines the term rule violation with regard to notices of exclusion. And rule violation is defined as, quote, behavior, conduct, or activity that occurs within or is related to the use of city property and that violates a rule. As we have stated today, the city of Englewood publicly posts on its website standards of behavior that apply as indicated in the Exhibit 2 purpose statement, unless otherwise provided, all city buildings, including libraries. And it also states that warning, removal, and exclusion for violation of these standards are supplemental to all other actions authorized by law, such as criminal charges. And the exclusion notice we have seen as Exhibit 1 has indicated specifically that Ms. Benson harassed Mr. Ellison in violation, or does not specifically indicate in the violation of standards of behavior, but that is what that is based on, is our contention. And additionally, that she committed a criminal violation specifically identified as CRS 189111-1C, which is harassment. So as evidenced by the standards of behavior marked by as Exhibit 2, it is a violation of these standards of behavior, a Tier 2 violation to issue threats, including threatening display of any item as a weapon, intimidation, or harassment, which harassment includes sexual, written, verbal, or physical harassment, or prolonged staring or following another with intent to harass, or stalking of others. Additional Tier 2 violation is the violation of any applicable criminal law, which, as stated, the notice of exclusion identifies as under state law harassment. The specific harassment statute that is noted, the standard for that is 189111-1C, which states that a person commits harassment if, with intent to harass, annoy, or alarm another person, he or she follows a person in or about a public place. So, hearing officer, through the testimony you've heard today from Mr. Ellison, or Elligan, you have demonstrated that almost undisputedly, he was followed around a public place being filmed. Additionally, he testified that he was scared. He testified that he was annoyed. He testified he was trying to take a break, how he would normally take a break, gathering his things and smoking outside. And during this time, he felt very frustrated, and despite his numerous requests, could not get Ms. Benson to leave him alone. Additionally, as you heard testimony today, Ms. Benson was never denied use of the restroom, either at the time the video had been made or in the future after. Additionally, Mr. Benson spoke with Mr. Richardson, as you saw in his testimony today, and Mr. Richardson said that she was allowed to use the restroom. At this point, there is no dispute between Ms. Benson and Mr. Elligan, other than her being angry that he tried to enforce a policy, regardless of whether or not that policy was accurate with regard to bathroom usage. And we believe that you can infer from this that she attempted to annoy Mr. Richardson, regardless of Mr. Elligan. Regardless of whether Mr. Elligan felt unsafe, which he testified he has, the standard under state law is following a person in a public place with the intent to harass, annoy, or alarm another person. And Mr. Richardson even testified today that he believed, based on his impression, that Mr. Elligan was annoyed. We would like to further reiterate that, again, 2 Tier 2 violations pursuant to the standard behavior took place, and you can infer from Exhibit 1 that the language almost exactly matches up from what the alleged violations were on the notice of exclusion compared to the standards of behavior, and that under these standards, the city just needs to show that it's more likely than not, or by preponderance of the evidence, that Ms. Benson followed Mr. Elligan around a public place with the intent to annoy him. We have established that there's no purpose for her to be following him around the library after her concern had already been alleviated by library staff, and that she had never been prevented from using the restroom in the first place. And we have established that Mr. Elligan felt unsafe, repeatedly asked her to stop, and she would not even when he asked, threatened to call the police. So for these reasons, hearing officer, we believe we have met the burden that 2 rule violations under Tier 2 took place, and pursuant to the standards of behavior, a Tier 2 violation may be, as a consequence of a Tier 2 violation, there may be an exclusion from the Englewood Public Library for up to 90 days. And that pursuant again to Exhibit 1, Ms. Benson was excluded for 90 days. So we believe that we have more than met the standard that by a preponderance of evidence that Ms. Benson committed the rule violations, and that the issuance was correctly done, as well as the duration was lawful as set forth by the Englewood Public Standards of Behavior, and that there are no conditions we are aware of that, or have been made aware today, that the exclusion was otherwise unlawful. We would like to just further reiterate that anything you heard today about whether or not the bathroom policy that Mr. Elligan attempted to enforce was a valid policy, whether or not is really not relevant to whether or not he was harassed. Additionally, anything that Mr. Elligan said in response to his alleged harassment by Ms. Benson relating to her, or that could be construed as being attacking her in some way with his words, is not relevant to whether Ms. Benson is more likely or not to have violated the standards of behavior. And additionally, standards of behavior. And for these reasons, hearing officer, we ask that you uphold this exclusion as the city has met its burden and it is lawful. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cash. Ms. Hubbard.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm going to address the 2 prongs separately. First is whether or not the city has proven a rule violation. It hasn't. The standard when you're looking at any kind of harassment, and just so you have my understanding, is it seems to me that both of these violations are essentially the same, given that the commission of a crime 18-9-1111C is the codified harassment statute in the state of Colorado, which prohibits people from following another with the intent to harass, which, based on what is underlined in the top rule violation, that appears to be what is alleged in the first rule violation as well. So I think the only issue here is really whether or not the city has proven that Ms. Benson was following Mr. Elligan with the intent to harass him. So when you're looking at harassment, particularly when the alleged harassment is speech-related, as it is in this case, you have to look at it from Ms. Benson's perspective. We do not criminalize people for how they make somebody else subjectively feel. You have to look at her intent. She has to have been taking actions with the intent to harass Mr. Elligan. There is no testimony, there is no evidence that that was her intent. In fact, the undisputed evidence was that her intent was to record a public person in a public building as they wrongly enforced a policy that doesn't exist. Her intent was to hold the security guards accountable for accurately enforcing policies. It's not even policy is the wrong word, but I'm going to call it policy because it wasn't a policy. Her intent is to expose when people who are being paid by the taxpayers are not behaving appropriately. You heard testimony from Mr. Richardson
Mr. Elligan's supervisor that he was not behaving appropriately. He violated his supervisor's orders. He indicated that next time he was going to violate whatever bathroom policy existed because he wasn't going to let Ms. Benson into the bathroom next time unless she signed her name. He even admitted that he knows that's not the policy, but that's what he said he was going to do. And Ms. Benson was recording him to hold him accountable. She, as a public citizen, is entitled to hold people accountable when they are being paid by the government. And that's what she did. And there is very clear case law that is cited in here, and I would refer the court to the Jordan case out of the 10th Circuit 2023 that said it should be beyond dispute, as we stand here in 2024, that citizens have a right to record in public spaces. That is just an undisputed First Amendment right. This Jordan case says specifically that the First Amendment protects people's rights to record and to criticize government officials, and therefore it allows them to stay in the area of government officials to exercise that right. If the First Amendment did not protect the ability to follow someone as they move around for purposes of recording them, then all a government official would have to do is go around the corner and beat up a homeless person. Go around the corner and engage in misconduct. And if the First Amendment person couldn't follow them around the corner, they wouldn't be able to record. Now, we live in 2024. It's a day of body cams. It's a day of exposure. It's a day of openness, right? We all recognize that you have a right to record public officials. You have a right to record in public spaces. Ms. Benson testified that's what she was doing. She wasn't following Mr. Elligan with the intent to harass. There is no evidence that that was her purpose. The fact that he felt harassed isn't the standard. There's very clear 10th Circuit case law over and over, Supreme Court case law over and over, that the way speech makes someone feel is not the measure for whether it's protected by the First Amendment. There is one of the most famous Supreme Court cases. There's a group of people from Kansas, my home state, who go around and protest at the funerals of soldiers. And they say disgusting things, they hold up disgusting signs, and they protested at the funeral of a soldier that was killed in Iraq. And his parents sued because they suffered extreme emotional distress from having to walk past these protesters and hear the things they were yelling on the day in question. Those people felt harassed, they felt distress, they were in agony from these protesters. The case went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, recognizing your distress, that speech is still protected. The fact that the speech caused that family to experience distress does not make it unprotected by the First Amendment. There are very limited categories of speech that are unprotected. True threats, this wasn't that. Yelling something in a crowded theater or whatever. This recording doesn't fall in any of those categories. Ms. Benson stayed in the public parts of the building. She recorded somebody in the public parts of the building. The fact that he felt upset doesn't mean that she intended to harass him. So just on the first prong alone, there is an insufficient proof. On the second prong, whether entering this exclusion order would be lawful, that to me is where the First Amendment analysis really kicks in. Because the city of Englewood cannot adopt a rule that is applied without regard to the Constitution. All of the city of Englewood's rules, just like everything in our criminal code, has to be mindful not to infringe on constitutional rights. The city of Englewood could not let me come up with something ridiculous, could not prevent somebody from handing out pamphlets anywhere on city property, right? You can impose time, place, and manner restrictions that impose certain limitations, but they couldn't adopt a rule that just said, no pamphleting on city property, right? And then if Ms. Benson handed out pamphlets and they came in front of the hearing officer and said, well, she violated our rule, that's our rule. She violated the rule. That's not the way it works,
right? The rule has to be considered in the context of constitutional rights. If the rule is written more broadly, such that it infringes on constitutional rights, the rule can't stand. And any order issued pursuant to that rule is unconstitutional. So to the extent the court believes there may have been some proof to meet the first element, they can't issue this order. Issuing this order would be unlawful. Ms. Benson was entitled to record in the public spaces of the Englewood Civic Center. That's what she did. She was entitled, under the Jordan case and other cases, to remain in the area of someone that she's recording so that she can continue to exercise her First Amendment rights. That's what she did. When he went into a non-public part of the building, she stopped. She stopped recording. But everywhere she recorded him was a public part of the building, and she's entitled to record there. If you sanction her for recording, if you sanction her for following him to record, you are infringing on her First Amendment rights. So the city can't meet its burden under either prong, and we would ask the hearing officer to find that this exclusion order is improper.
All right, thank you. I don't think we have any further business in this proceeding. The rules require that I issue a written decision on this within 3 days. So we'll be distributing that to you guys as other communications from my office have occurred or as required. I think actually it's supposed to come through the city clerk here per the rules and the code, so we'll do that. All right, seeing no other business before this proceeding, or in this proceeding, we'll adjourn the matter at 1:31. Thank you for your time.
And hearing officer, you said you'd like me to send that link to Evan King, is that correct?
No, Karen Struess.
Karen Truss, okay.
Yes.